Hello everyone. So in today's session, we are going to learn about how to use our touch sensor. And with the help of touch sensor, we are going to create a project by which we will turn on and off these LEDs when we press a particular pad. So here, if you see our touch sensor, you will see that we have four pads. That is your 1, 2, 3, 4. Now these pads are your touch sensitive pads, like our touch screen or mobile touch. Now, for example, when I touch on it, it will respond like it knows that I have touched on this a particular pad. Similarly, for the second and fourth. Apart from that, if we see the pins here, if you see the pins, it has 6 pins. Out of the 6 pins, our 4 pins is for these four pads, and 2 pins are for your powering it up. That is our VCC and ground. Now, if you see it closely, like here, I think it is focusing your background. Let me keep them all aside. Okay, no issue. If you see the pins or in your hand, if you can see it, like the first and the second pin from here is we have the VCC and ground. After that, we have our output pins, that is our output 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So like whenever I press this first button, so this first pin will be activated. Only this one pin will be activated when I press or I touch on this one panel. Apart from that, we have these LEDs here. You can see we have four LEDs. So these four LEDs are for these four pads. So when I click on this first one, this LED will glow, only the first LED. If I click the second LED will glow. If I press more than one pad, let's say like this, two pads I am covering. So both of the LED will be on. Now it is a kind of a digital sensor, that is our touch sensor. So it will give us some values from these pins, output pins. So as it is a digital, so it can be high or it can be low, that is 1 or 0. So when I press on it, it will give us some values. So we have to find out what value it will provide us, and by using that values, we will turn on and off our LED. Because in our LED, if you see, we have two pins, or positive and negative. If we provide both of them, our circuit is completed. Let's say I provide the negative with ground by default. The positive is connected to the output pin, let's say 1. So when I touch it, let's say it is producing uh, positive voltage or positive response when I touch on it. So positive we get, negative we have by default provided. So our LED will turn on. So this is the base same principle which we are going to use. For that we required breadboard for making the connection. We need our touch sensor, some LEDs. Here we are using four different color LEDs because we have four pads, so it is easy for us to use them. Apart from that, we are going to use resistance because the power supply here, the power supply which we are using is having like it is of 9 to 12 volt. So our sensor electronics components require very less power, say around 5 volt or under 5 volt they will work, but we are providing much higher value, so it may like some burst out or it may not functional that way. So for protecting them, we are going to use resistance. Here we are using the resistance of 220 ohms. So now let's see how we can use it. So let's say I use some jumper wires to connect them. Now I can directly put it like this here, but if I do it like that, then I cannot press it or I cannot touch it. So we need some male to female jumper wires. So okay, so here we got some jumper wires. So let's connect it. So start by powering it up. So let me connect only two pins. So I have connected only two wires in your positive and negative pins. So the first two are your positive and negative, that is your VCC and ground. So it will power it up our sensor. After that, we are going to use 4 more jumper wires. Here we are using the jumper wires male to female. Simply I have inserted all of them. Nothing, no connection has been done till now. Now what I want to do, let's use the breadboard. So the positive will be given to the positive rail of our breadboard. Say like this. Positive one, negative to the negative. Okay, that's it. Now let's start by connecting the power supply. So for power supply, we need to provide VCC and ground. Okay. So we have the VCC as your black and ground as white. So let's say ground is directly connected. Now the VCC, if are directly connected, it will turn on, but we have direct powers, that is our 9 volt directly providing to our sensor. So for providing for protecting them, we are going to use a resistance like 220 ohm. So connecting to the positive, and let's say connecting in any of the component section. Now let's connect the black wire in front of them. So we have provided the power supply. No connection has been done. Just the power supply negative. This is a negative pin and positive with the help of resistance. Now, if you can see, like when I press on this first, there you can see one LED has been growing. If I press on this second one, second LED, third, similarly the fourth. If I press all of them, you can see all the LEDs has been turning on. Okay. So like it is sensing, and we have provided the power supply to it perfectly. Now what we have to do, let me stick it here. Okay. Now we have 4 jumper wires, so let's connect them at 4 different pins. So for that, let's use first let's use our LED. So we have 2 terminals, positive and negative. So the negative is directly connected to the ground pin. So let's say ground directly, and positive we have in the component section, just 2 pins. You see it like here, one in the ground and another one in the power, like in the component section. Do the same for the rest of the pins. Similarly for the other 2 of them. So we have done it. Now we have these 4 wires which we are left with. So connect them simultaneously. Like first is red, then we have this blue color, then the white is for, let's say, green, then the one with the last blue, our white one. So these are our connections. Now let's say press in the 4. Here you can see 4. Our fourth LED is glowing. Blue 2. Okay, I think the LED. Okay, I made it in the wrong way. Okay, here you can see green, white. So white. Here you can see. So you can see that these LEDs are also glowing, and here the LEDs are also changing by where I am like putting my finger. So it is like a touch sensitive, like the same touch sensitive which we have in our mobile, that is our capacitive touch. Okay, so that's it for today's session. I'll see you in the next session.